Hello guys and gals, and welcome to another episode of Legendary Aspects. Today we're going to be going over a legendary aspect known as the Aspect of Inner Calm. The Aspect of Inner Calm is a pretty good one, but only for niche things. Unfortunately, with the way that this game works, standing still is often very deadly, and generally you don't want to stand still unless you have to. Well, what do I mean by you have to stand still? Well, certain skills within the game, like for instance Incinerate, are channeling skills, and because they are channeling skills, you have to stand still. You don't have any choice. You can't move around while you're using the ability, or the ability stops. So if you move around, well, then, you don't have to do not doing any damage. So when it comes to Incinerate, having an ability like the Aspect of Inner Calm is actually a pretty good idea, because this one gives you a pretty huge damage bump while standing still. Now, how does it work? Well, if you move, at any point, you lose the damage. If you stand still at any point, you will see a stacking bonus start to appear on your character, which will increase until you eventually get the full bonus of 30% times, which would be represented as times 1.30. Now, this particular effect is actually really nice for increasing the damage of your character, but only if you can actually stand still. In this particular case, you can see that if I'm casting, say, for instance, Blizzard, Blizzard is doing, like, what, 1,000 damage, 1,000 damage, not exactly all that much. However, if I stand still for the appropriate amount of time and then cast Blizzard, you notice that now I'm doing 2,498 damage at the same time. So being able to gain additional damage by standing still means that you can get a pretty large amount of damage bump for your character. But only if you're on a character who actually has the ability to stand still. I generally don't utilize this one unless I'm playing a character that is either forced to stand still, like for instance the Channeling Sorceress, or if I have the ability to stand still, maybe I'm a backline character and it doesn't really matter all that much where I'm standing. It kind of is a really weird one. It doesn't really take a particularly long time to actually activate, so that's also important to note, is that, like, for instance, if you were fighting a boss, let's say, for instance, I was fighting a boss, and I'm running around the boss, and he finally stands still, and I start attacking the boss. It's 1,000, 2 1,000, 3 1,000, and it's up. So it's not like it's completely useless for a character who is moving around a lot. Because you will find yourself in situations where you are standing still. However, anytime you move, you will lose the bonus. And then, of course, the bonus has to re-up, essentially. Now, this particular bonus is offensive, so it can be placed on the one-handed, two-handed, amulet slot, rings, gloves, and so forth and so on. Now, does this actually increase when you're talking about your percentages and things like that? So, are we talking about actually getting a bonus? Well, the easiest way to check this is to go over to the occultist, and what you can do is you can actually check it in, say, an amulet slot, and you can see whether or not it goes up in percentage. So, and normally it is a 10% increase up to a 30% increase, correct? All right, so let's go ahead, and I gotta drop one real quick so I can actually show you this. So we go over to this side of it, and I'll pick up the Inner Calm one. We're going to put the amulet in here, and then we're going to take the Inner Calm and we're going to throw that on this side. And this is going to show us whether or not it actually increases. So it says deal 15% increased damage for each second you stand still up to 30% times. So it did not actually increase the maximum amount, which is 30% times, but it did increase the total percentage increased by per second. So in the case of it on a weapon, you are talking about simply 3 seconds to reach the maximum value. However, on an amulet, it would only take 2. Because now it's 15% per pulse, and so you're going to get 30% after 2 seconds as opposed to 30% after 3 seconds. It's not exactly very effective on the amulet, but still useful nonetheless. When it comes to this particular aspect, though, I think it's my personal opinion that it's just one of those aspects that you're probably not going to use unless you're in a specific niche build that would utilize it. As you can see, one-handed weapons, two-handed weapons, gloves, amulets, and rings. Where would you potentially get this? Well, if we take a look at the gambling tool over on Diablo 4 Life, you can pull up the aspect, which is, of course, the inner calm. Inner calm is an all classes aspect, and it does have the best chances of coming from one-handed weapons on the barbarian, necromancer, and sorcerer. And the reason for this is because there is the least number of competing aspects on these classes. So if you're gambling it for it on the barbarian, you're going to get it the most. So go for the barbarian and go for the one-handed weapon on the barbarian, and you're probably going to have the best chance there. However, the offhand, which is a little bit cheaper, which is also considered a one-handed weapon, is a little bit higher for the necromancer, sorceress, and the druid, and the barbarian doesn't have an offhand, so it's kind of the same. So as you can see here, 0.69 for the one-handed sword for the barbarian, and 0.69 and 0.69 for the necromancer and the sorceress, but this is for the offhand. I don't really have much of an issue getting my hands on these. If I'm being perfectly honest, I find them a lot, and when I do find a decent one, I just hang on to it. Anyway, as always, I do appreciate you guys and gals watching my videos, even when we're just talking about the aspect of inner calm, and as always, keep watching.